the Auburn Blitz Podcast, your direct source for all Auburn all the time with Brett Pritchard, Faith Richardson, and Randy Lee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Auburn Blitz Podcast. Glad you joined us wherever it is that you are tuning us in today, and glad you make a stop here on Auburn Blitz for all your Auburn content. Boy, a ton to talk about today. March Madness. One of our buddies, Randy, said today is Christmas Day 2.0. Hard to argue with him. Not going to be a lot done in offices today, especially when the boss is away. The little boss button thing that pops up, you can click that and act like you're actually working on some type of spreadsheet. Most bosses know anyway you ain't working. So there really ain't no sense to push up some fake screen like you're actually working.
Let me jump in here. The one that said that is a banker.
No question.
He has been a banker for a majority of his career, and I don't want to speculate on bankers' hours and the daily grind of bankers out there, but and I'm not trying to knock those of you that chose that as a profession, but a lot of times the jargon that you hear is true. And so yes, if he gets anything positive accomplished today for that bank, it's
not going to happen.
It would be a shock.
It ain't going to happen. We're not going to name banks or names, but if you're expecting to get a lot of production out of that bank today, or any other bank or any school or whatever, people's going to be glued. Hey, all of a sudden you get this guy that's glued to his computer screen and he's real interested in the spreadsheet that's going on. Yeah, that's pretty much a sign that he ain't working. So anyway, March Madness gets started today. I put out, the banner this morning, historical run. Can this be a historical run for Auburn? And, it starts today. It starts with a team that's 45 minutes down the road from Auburn, a team that Auburn played last year in Alabama State. And as Bruce Pearl said in the press conference yesterday, a team that outplayed Auburn in the second half at Auburn last year. Okay. So now I know it was a different situation and, the game was in hand and all that. And I know a lot of that is just, trying to build up this game, but let's just be honest. And we'll start with this game and we'll dive into a lot of other things because Texas lost last night. SEC already down a team. Texas didn't get past Xavier last night. Had their chances, blew it at the end, but this is March. And again, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and there is no tomorrow if you lose. And Bruce Pearl alluded to that yesterday. Randy, he said, we're going to do every daggum thing we can to prevent losing, that they know that we want to play 6 games in this tournament. And Auburn's never played 6 games in this tournament. We played 5 before. Back in 2019 and came up a little bit short for whatever reason. I know that brings up Harbor's bad thoughts and memories, but this team has the ability, we've talked about it all year, to be a team to finally raise a national championship banner in Neville Arena and finally land one for the SEC for the first time in Lord knows when.
Well, I think that's a big start. Filled out my bracket this morning. If you haven't filled out one, please find us out there. Go to all of our social media outlets. I think I shared it again this morning.
Yep.
Go and find us. I think we had over 150 maybe that were currently either working on it or going to get one in before this first game starts this morning.
And let me tell everybody real quick that'll be watching, we got actually the Auburn Blitz bracket's the one that we pushed out, but we have an old bracket out there that's active. Sports Blitz Madness, and we've had some enter that one, and we've had a lot enter the Auburn Blitz one. We got a lot that know how to follow directions, and some people out there that don't. But here's what we're going to do. All of you that we're going to recognize that bracket too. It's active, so we're going to figure out something for that one as well. But Auburn Blitz bracket, if you have not done that one, that's the link that was sent out. That was the link that was pushed out on our social. That was the link that you and I pushed out to all our friends and everybody. You can go out there and find it. Blitz 2025 is the password to get into that bracket. It's free. So we'll be unveiling the prizes and stuff after March Madness gets started today. So just hold on, but go ahead and get that in this morning before that first game tips off, because once that first game tips off this morning, you can't get it in.
So, back to, just talking about that bracket, though. I mean, Auburn does start with someone that we know and someone that probably knows enough about us. It's not like we're playing someone all the way across the country. And this is an Alabama State team that for the last, 13 or 14 games have really played outstanding basketball, Brett. And I watched the other night. They shot the ball well. They made plays at the end to get over the hump and win that one. It's not a bad team at all. And so Auburn, look, I'm hopeful that we don't see what happened to Virginia a few years ago. Of course, we don't want to see anything like that. But the most important thing for Auburn right now is to play to their ceiling. And every team this time of year, you hope that you're hitting your peak and you're going to play as good as you have at any point in time in the season. And that just hasn't been the case, especially offensively for Auburn for the last few weeks. Go back to Kentucky and make an argument that Auburn played well in that game, but there were some moments in that one offensively that we didn't look all that good. And, we scored in the 60s twice in the SEC tournament. That's just not good enough. It's not going to win a championship playing that kind of offensive ball. You can't put that kind of pressure on your defense in today's basketball to defend the three-point arc and not have somebody go off on you. That was the MO for teams a couple of years ago. I remember you complaining nonstop. Every time we play somebody, we're going to see one player is going to get their best game of the season against Auburn, and that can happen in this tournament run, Brett. So I'll start with that. I hope we see our best. I hope we see some of these players that have struggled for whatever reason for the last month, really, when you talk about Chaney Johnson and some others, really get back to a level that can take us to a championship. And mine and your two eyes need to see that. And I think all Auburn fans would like to see that because it's really difficult to go down and choose a bracket right now and pick Auburn. For me, I've watched all of their games. I've been immersed in this season all year long. I mean, me and my entire family, we're not going to miss a game. My wife loves Auburn basketball as much as anybody out there. And that's saying a lot. She's not one that's going to sit around and watch all the ball games, but she's just kind of tied into what's going on with this team. And I know a lot of you are out there, but I want to see us play at our ceiling, Brett, and we just haven't for a while for whatever reason.
That's the good thing about, there's three parts to this season. You start with the, the pre-conference schedule, and Auburn played a rough one, and they shined, and it's really the reason why Auburn was vaulted to number one. And then you get in conference play, and Auburn, it was just one win after another, and then they end up winning the let's be honest, the regular season, which was the hardest regular season in SEC basketball history. So there is a lot to reflect on there. They've kind of tailed off here at the end of that, and you kind of were waiting on that to happen. We saw Florida kind of hit a skid earlier in the year. And then, Tennessee's had their roller coaster. Alabama's definitely had their ups and downs. Ours, the last few years, has come in the NCAA tournament. Maybe we got it out of our system. That's what I'm hoping for. Hopefully this is again, we talk about chips on the shoulder and all this kind of stuff, but what you're looking for is a reason to get back to playing the style of basketball that we all know Auburn's capable of playing. I don't care what it takes to motivate them. I don't care if it's dropping to number 4 in the AP poll. I don't care if it's, national pundits talking about this team's going to be the first number 1 seed to go out. Whatever you got to use is motivation. And it's like Dylan Cardwell said, I use the fact that, when we lose finally, he hopes it's after 6 games that they don't lose, that they make that run. But whenever it's over for this group together. And he said, I want to keep fighting. I want one more practice day. I want one more game with this group because, Auburn will reload next year. It'll be a different looking team. There'll be a few of these guys back, but it won't be this group. And so you've been with this group for so long. You want to go all the way back to last summer, Randy, when they brought some of these guys in and really started working together and building that rapport and this chemistry. They've been together for a long time. So they want to finish this deal more than any of us. We're fans. We're media. All the people that watch this are fans and stuff. But they want to do this for themselves. And so they've got to lock in mentally and get back to doing the things that made them the number one overall seed in this tournament.
Well, let's maybe go into a couple of keys that both of us see from an offensive standpoint. Is where I'll start with Auburn. I mean, we've gotten deep in shot clock far too often over the last month, and it feels like early in the game we're seeing if we've got our shooters touch, but when we miss a few, you can feel us tense up a little bit, and it's time to go to Janai, and let's play a 4-high offense and see if we can get Janai either foul line extended to get the ball to him and see if we can run the offense through him. And it just, for whatever reason, doesn't feel like it's got any flow to me. Do you get that same sense, Brett? And how do you get that flow back? To me, it's Tahad. I hate to point to one player and say that he can be the one that really gets us in a flow, because when Denver's in the ball game, Brett, it's more of a half-court offense set. You've got to make outside shots. He's got all of the skill set to have a mid-range game and to make some plays. But Tahad brings just an extra gear that opens up really open three-point shot for, a number of our players. CBM being one that's really good in the transition at knocking down threes. Of course, Kelly can do that. But Tahad keeps you back on your heels, and he can attack and maybe speed the game up a little bit. I just feel like Auburn needs to play a little faster on the offensive end, a little more sense of urgency on the offensive end, a little less grinded out half-court sets. Maybe I'm wrong. Your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're going in the right direction. Jason said yesterday here on our podcast that Tahad's the X factor for him. You said that too. And this is why you both said that, because Tahad's our most elite player. Okay. Janai Broom's the player of the year, but Tahad Pettiford's the highest ranked player we have on the floor on this squad. And those are the players that take over in tournament time. You've done all the things and you've had the grind to get to this point, but your elite players shine in March. And it don't matter if you're a freshman, sophomore, or whatever. And Tahad Pettiford's got that it factor, man. And when he's on, I've said this 100 times. You know this. He's the guy I want with the ball in his hand. I don't care if he's 0 for 7. If the game's on the line, he's the one I want, because he's got that moxie about him that he don't care what the situation is. He actually runs to the moment instead of runs away from the moment, even though he has maybe had a tough shooting night. But we've also seen him light it up and be unconscious and pull up and hit threes and go, man, this is unbelievable. This is why this kid was a 5-star. This is why this kid was a McDonald's All-American. This is why everybody wanted him. That's who we've got to have step up. You're right. You and Jason both nailed it. I think he can't go over like we saw in the last game. He's got to contribute, and I think he will, man. I think this kid embraces big moments. He's embraced them all year, man. Houston, he's the reason we beat Houston. Okay, and that really is what got all this started, all the way back at the beginning of the year. And then he played well in Maui. He played well against Purdue and Ohio State. I mean, the moments aren't too big for this freshman, and he's not a freshman anymore. So you're right. Players make plays in big-time moments, and I think if he starts playing like we know he can, then Auburn's going to be a really hard out in this tournament. I know we've talked the bracket to death, and we're not going to today because, now it really doesn't matter what you're seeded. All that build up and where you got all that. Okay, Auburn's number 1 overall seed. Now you got to play, and now the first game in front of you is Alabama State. And Alabama State likes to shoot a lot of threes. They shot 29 of them the other night. They made 9. Now, to me, I thought Coach Madlock did a great job of coaching Alabama State. They were shooting way too many of them in the first half and not making them, and about shot themselves out of the game. You came back in the second half, and they shot some, but Alabama State was getting downhill and getting to the basket and creating. They ain't shot a free throw, Randy, till late in the game. And he said it. He said, if we don't get to the free throw line, we're not going to win this game, because you can't not get some points from the free throw line. So their whole philosophy in the second half changed, and you saw, his son, TJ, kind of step up. He was the X factor at the end of the game. You saw the Hines kid and the Knox kid really have a good, solid game. Knox is a gamer. So they've got some players. And again, the difference should be the size inside. They got one guy that's 6'10", and he's probably about the size of Chad Baker-Mazar. So they're going to struggle inside, and they have struggled inside with teams that are large. But look, man, I think Coach Madlock, who used to be a former Auburn assistant, understands this program. I think Coach Pearl and he have a great relationship. They know each other. But he's going to coach them up, and so we're going to have to be ready.
Yeah, I was very impressed all the way around, effort-wise and, skill set-wise out at the guard position. So I'm watching. I'm not sitting there watching that game without having a little bit of anxiety watching it. I've seen too many of these for Auburn, but, easy buckets. Not everything has to be hard.
Right.
I coach a lot of basketball. Now, it's not high school basketball, but we've got our AAU season starting up this weekend. And I tell the kids that either, that I'm coaching or talking to, just sometimes you got to get effort buckets. Things have to not always be a half court set. You got to have some effort buckets from some steals and, just to speed teams up. But downhill play that creates easy block buckets is what I call it. I mean, if I get downhill and I dish off, that's what Auburn needs. You just watch Dylan Cardwell, and Dylan Cardwell hasn't gotten a lot of easy buckets as of late. Chaney Johnson, how many easy buckets has Chaney Johnson had in the last 2
Where is Chaney Johnson?
Well, but part of the issue with Chaney and Dylan is our guards aren't creating enough easy opportunities for them by keeping teams on their heels, and I think we've gotten away from that a little bit. And I hope Tahad, I keep going back to Tahad, but there's a big difference between Tahad scoring 21 and hitting 5 threes and 3 of those coming 4 foot behind the arc. To me, that's great. I'd love to see it, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about that guy is next to impossible to keep in front of you when you're playing fast.
Right.
And even if he doesn't score, he creates easy opportunities for a lot of the other players that we have out there. And we got to get back to that brand of basketball and having a little bit of fun and, taking a little bit of the nerves away from the game. Because when you're playing fast, I don't know about you, but when you're playing fast or you're coaching fast, it just feels like there's a flow to the game. And Auburn just hasn't felt like we've had a really good flow on the offensive end for quite some time. So I think our effort, for the most part, defensively, outside of switching a little too much up top, but the teams that we've been playing know that if they run that system up at the top with a lot of screens, that Auburn is going to have to, at some point in time, switch, and they're going to get the matchup. We'll see if the teams that we play moving forward do the same as these SEC teams, that they know how to play Bruce Pearl. They know how to play an extended defense like we play. But I've been impressed. I mean, look at the points we gave up in the SEC tournament. It wasn't defensive effort. Alabama got to the 90s in the game that they beat us, but it was in overtime. I mean, Alabama didn't just, like you said, Mark Sears didn't shoot us out of the gym. We defended him well. He made a play at the end, but he only had 9 points in that basketball game. Nelson, you couldn't count on Nelson week in and week out playing the way that he did in that game against Auburn, especially in the first half. Sometimes that just happens, but I haven't been upset with our defensive effort. I'm a little worried about rebounding. And the only problem that we have there is Janai's giving you everything that you could possibly ask for on the offensive end. But he's lost some explosion on the rebounding and defensive rebounding and blocking shots. And he's been a little gimpy, and it is what it is. I mean, he's fighting through it, and I think he very much deserves the Player of the Year, and thank the Lord we have him. But you have to live in reality too. And Auburn's not quite as explosive as we were earlier in the year. And with Chaney and Dylan not playing up to a standard that we all hope that they catch back up to here in this tournament, it's been a problem rebounding the basketball too.
Bottom line is you got to have more than one player be the guy. You can't ride a guy for 30 points and expect to go deep in this tournament. I mean, you got to have depth. Your depth's got to show up. I know everybody's bench shrinks as you go through March. That's you want your best players on the floor, max effort all the time, but you're going to have to sub some. And, especially with Auburn notoriously getting in foul trouble. That's another thing to watch going into this game today. How does Auburn handle fouls? And, Chaney Johnson has had a chronic problem of getting in foul trouble and, having, stupid fouls. I hate to say it that way, but when you're 40 feet from the basket and you try to wrap around and steal the ball from a guard, that's a stupid foul. Especially when you got a battle inside. You just give one away at that point. Chad Baker-Mazara kind of been out of sorts since, he got tossed. Let's just be honest about it. He kind of is trying to, we worry about that. We said it, well, is that going to change his mindset? Is he going to kind of go off and drift into the corner and say, well, I'm not going to be, we got to have him be himself and for us to have a chance to win. You got to have offensive production step back up from your guards. Miles Kelly's going to have to score 12 to 15 points. Denver Jones is going to have to be in that range. Tahad can't go, for 2 or 3 points, in a game. And you got to have Janai Broome play the way he does. You got to have all of it. That you got to have the whole combination because that's what makes you the number 1 overall seed. You take any of those parts out, you become a very vulnerable team. And so let's see if we can get that back going. Again, I don't think it's a matter of if Auburn's going to win or lose this game. I think Auburn wins this game. Auburn's a 32-point favorite. I know you don't take them lightly, but Auburn should go out there. You and I have said this before. In certain situations, certain teams should roll the ball out there and just take care of business. But I don't want to see that. I want to see Auburn approach Alabama State like they're playing, another matchup against Florida. I want them to play hard and keep their foot on the gas. It's not about, shaming a team 45 minutes down the road. If we beat them by 40, beat them by 40. That's what Auburn did when we were number 1 seed against Winthrop that year. We came out and just took it to them. I remember Mamadou having a great game and really everybody and you went, man, that looks like a number 1 overall seed or number 1 seed, period. I want Auburn to look like a number 1 seed. I want them to come out and dominate a team that's inferior to them. No cut against Alabama State, but it's the truth. And then carry that momentum into whoever it is they've got to play on Saturday, whether it be Creighton or whether it be Louisville. I don't care who it is. But just get Auburn back to the way they were playing, and then I think they'll be fine.
Well, I think it's Tahad for a majority of the tournament, but the 2 players that I really feel like have a great chance of having a big game today is Dylan Cardwell and Chaney Johnson. And we need both of them to get into double figures. We need both of them to get, again, easy buckets being lob buckets. Both.
Right.
We need Dylan to have 3 or 4 lob buckets in the first half when you've got that much of a size discrepancy. But you can't get those lob buckets unless defenses are on their heel having to defend somebody going downhill. And there's no excuse for this Auburn team.
Right.
As long as we are on the wings, as explosive as we are on the wings with Kelly and CBM and Tahad and Denver, to not be able to get Dylan some really easy buckets in there. So I'm hopeful. Be watching. Just hoping that Auburn really can play to their level, like you have there, Faith. Faith is already in her Auburn gear. I'm in my Auburn gear today, Brett, and
I'm not yet. So
well, you'll get in it. I can tell you got your Tampa gear on right now. But go ahead and get in your Auburn gear, and we'll keep talking about it. I'll step aside right here. I know we got some great sponsors out there. I saw Alan jump on a little bit earlier, Brett, and like it. So Bunkers, if you're looking for a place to go and watch the game today, there's not a better spot than Bunkers in Auburn, Alabama. They've got parking opportunities for you, up to 50 spots underneath, and you just kind of drive to the back there and underneath the parking deck. Got 50 bunker spots back there, and it is wide open, plenty of room in there. You're not on top of one another. A lot of different TV areas in Bunkers. I can't say enough good things about them. I'll talk about my 2 brands over there in the Auburn market. We'll be over there working again today. Got signage going up on the building if you ride by us on Opelika Road. But Lee Apparel and Sign Source, stop by and see us. If you're needing corporate apparel, custom tees, screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products, that's Lee Apparel. And then Sign Source can design it, print, assemble it, and then install, start to finish. Sign Source can handle your next project. 256-825-0197. Stop by and see us there in the Auburn market. I've got some Auburn Blitz tees that I'm going to be printing down here in the next couple of days. So if you come by and see us at the new Auburn location, we'll have some Auburn Blitz tees with some Lee Apparel and Sign Source sponsorship tied into those. But stop by and pick those up. And
I just got to ask you a quick. I just got to ask you a quick question. Have you been up in that 90-foot bucket truck yet?
Never will. I've told all of you it's really humorous that I own a signage company that
and you won't get near above 5 feet off the ground.
That sends a human being up. I won't go up 5 steps on a step ladder. I mean, I'm not going to. And so the good Lord's funny like that. I mean, he'll put me in charge of a business that sends humans up 90 feet in the air and putting up signs. And there's zero chance at all we'd be in that business if I was the one having to do the work to do it. I'd die 18 deaths as soon as you got me 25 feet in there. But we can do it. And we've got great people here that have the ability to go up there and do that. So we call it Bucket Truck Pros. That's another one, not just signage, but if you've got facilities that need cleaning, pressure washing, windows that are high up off, or any other type of project like that, give us a call, but it won't be me.
I've been up in one of those bucket trucks before, buddy, up and changing out a busway on the side of a building, man, about 50 feet up. It's a little sketchy, I'm just going to tell you.
All right, Faith, keep him together. He's not as high strung as I expected him to be today, Faith.
No,
when the game started, but you wait, give it a couple of days. When that next,
if we're getting high strung today, then we got a problem.
If it gets through this one and we get that next matchup, good luck with Brett Pritchard, everybody. I'll talk to you,
Randy.
All right.
See you, brother. Welcome in Faith with the Strong Hat game, as always, bringing it back.
Hey,
amongst popular demand.
yeah,
We'll hit a comment up here, getting you rolling in this morning. Most concerned about Creighton to get out of Lexington, hoping Louisville can take them out first. Creighton has always been a giant killer, and they play smart. They rebound, which they've been struggling with lately. But if they can keep it close, they'll start poking at our main two emotional players, and we'll lose control of the game quickly. I mean, good points, Matthew. I think you gotta watch. Creighton is a historical team in the tournament that knows how to play in this tournament. They don't care who their opponent is. We've all kind of been talking about Louisville because Louisville, it's right there, in Kentucky. It's in their backyard, but don't sleep on Creighton. And I know we've had several other people make comments over the last couple of days about that too. I know. I think Rebel Yale said, look, Creighton's somewhere laughing at y'all right now talking about Louisville. But that seems to be – we're not alone. Louisville's a 3-point favorite in that game, which obviously an 8-9 matchup is probably going to be a close point spread. But, Louisville, it's going to have a home field advantage, a home court advantage feel to it. And so, again, Creighton has played in big environments. They're going to be used to that. But – if Louisville were to make it to that second game, I mean, they're going to try to get everybody they can in Rupp Arena to combat the Auburn fans that are going to be traveling, because I know Auburn's going to have a ton of people in Lexington today, and then hopefully for that Saturday game against whoever. But yeah, it doesn't matter. We know it's like Coach Pearl said, we don't have a give me out of the first weekend. You're going to have to go through a really good basketball team in round number 2. Got to take business serious first today, but that next game, you're going to have to play good. And if you don't play good, you ain't going to be in the tournament anymore.
Oh yeah. I'm hoping that we're going to be taking on Louisville. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, 2 days ago, maybe.
It all meshes together at this point.
Yeah, it's all the same day. I think no matter who we're going to play, they're going to be poking at our emotional players. I think that's going to be
a strategy.
Yeah, that's everybody's easiest out for us, I think, is if you're going to go sit there and poke at them and they're going to get all upset, ejected. like we've watched it happen last year. We
Well,
watched it happen last 2 weeks ago.
if you can get the other teams, one of their best players out of the game, and it's happened a couple of times in the last year, dating back to the tournament last year and then the recent incident,
Yeah,
a few
that's what I'm
weeks ago.
saying.
That's what, I'm backing you up on that. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. If you can do that, then why not? I mean, and so that going in. I think Auburn knows that going in, and I think Bruce Pearl tries to contain that as much as possible. But again, when you get out into a game in the flow, you can't control a lot of times what a player does in the heat of a moment. So he's got to be contained. He's got to know that that's going to be, whoever's strategy. Alabama State will probably try to do that today. You're going to watch that. Everybody has the scouting report on Auburn. Everybody knows what everybody does well. There's not a team in this tournament that doesn't know a little bit about the other one. And so all the way up and down, if Auburn has scouted every team in this bracket, obviously Alabama State and Creighton / Louisville are going to be the two teams that they worry about more than anybody right now, but they've scouted all of them because they're all potential matchups down the line. So a little bit about what everybody does well, what their weaknesses are, and all this kind of stuff. That's why you have all these different assistant coaches that have assignments and have teams assigned to them to break things down and have a scouting report. So, I'm ready to get this thing kicked off. Let's talk about we're going to talk some football here in just a minute, Faith, because spring football really starts. They're having the meetings and stuff and like an OTA style deal this week, but next week it's full squad practice. And I want to look at our roster and see what this thing looks like going into practice next week with the newcomers in and the people that left. And then, also while I'm on the topic, and we're going to get to football, come back to basketball, then go back to football again. Football, the transfer portal is still out there after the spring. So again, to me, that's a concern. You're coaching guys up, and you're trying to plan, but this is where, it's going to be hard on these football coaches across the country moving forward. Is how do I keep my roster intact? How do I prevent a guy from sliding into the portal, and leaving that I'm going to be counting on maybe as a role player, maybe not a starter, but everybody can't play. So I think managing this roster, we said this weeks ago, it was you and me and Jason talking about this. Roster management is going to be the name of the game for college football now, and it's like NFL. And
It's because it's changed just so much. And what we watched with the kid last year, how he's just, I'm an employee. I can move. I can quit my job whenever. And I'm waiting for the regulation of the NIL and the transfer portal at some point.
Well, there's going to have to be some.
Yeah, because there's just you saying that you're an employee and you leaving, like, yeah, that ultimately that makes sense.
Right.
But back a couple of years ago, you had to wait until the transfer portal opened, and then you at one point had to sit a year. And I don't know if that would even make that big of a difference. I mean, I think it would make a huge difference today, but when it comes to, I don't think they're even thinking about putting that back in place of sitting a year.
No, that won't happen. I mean,
but I feel like that would just make
right. The toothpaste is out of the tube, so now you got to figure out how to handle the mess that you made. Right?
Yeah. And my thing is, I feel like if you make that like another rule, you're not going to have all these guys going back and forth with just because of the money factor of it all. Right. And so I think when that got lifted and then the NIL came in,
contracts are the answer to me. Signing people to contracts. Hey, you come here, you're staying for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, if we want to reevaluate and we want to cut you loose or we want to try to re-sign you, that's cool. But at some point in time, you got to have people held responsible. You can't just free willy-nilly every 6 months decide if you want to fly off to somewhere else. I mean, so there's going to have to be, some accountability mixed into that. I want to talk about some of our partners here. Halfway through our program, Sensagreen for air that's cool and clean. Call them Sensagreen. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama, proud supporters of our podcast here on the Auburn Blitz and Auburn Athletics. Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm in Birmingham, Alabama. From the pre-construction phase all the way to the finished product, they'll carry you through it. Those guys are the experts. Call on them. Randy talked about bunkers. Can't say enough about bunkers. We love going to bunkers. Maybe going to bunkers tomorrow night. It's a great opportunity to go and hang out with friends and have great food, great drinks, and watch all the basketball games. Can't say enough about them. Sure Shot, we're going to be hitting the woods very soon because it is turkey season, everybody, and everybody's excited about turkey season, right, Faith?
Oh, yeah.
You're getting excited now. Yeah, and so get your gear. If you don't have the right apparel, all the new apparel is in. Go and see Sure Shot. Great people. They got a sale going on Browning firearms right now. So a Second Amendment sale that give you 10% off. So now's a great time to go buy you a new shotgun and get you ready for hunting season here, turkey season, which is right around the corner. Actually, youth weekend starts this weekend. And so make sure you go out. And Oliver Ross, full service bartending service, handling your parties of 20 up to 20,000, licensed, trained bartenders. Don't spill all the stuff all over the floor and make a mess and be embarrassed when everybody's at your house. Call on Oliver Ross and they'll take care of you. All right, getting back to what we were talking about. Let's go back and look. Today is like Christmas Day for a lot of people. This is one of the best days in sports year-round. It's the opening day of the March Madness tournament. Glad that Auburn is back in it. I'm glad Auburn's the number one overall seed and all that stuff. And we play at 150, okay? But getting things started this morning at 11:15 will be Creighton and Louisville. There's a great game there for everybody to tune into. Louisville's a 2.5-point favorite. This is going to be a great basketball game. Will be the game that gets everything kicked off. So that's a pretty good one. And then following up at 11:40, it'll be High Point and Purdue. And that game, again, you're going to be tuning in on CBS and True TV and TNT and TBS, all the networks there that combine to carry the tournament. And then moving on at 12:30, Montana and Wisconsin will take on one another. And then we'll be up next, or actually SIUE and Houston will play at 1, and then we'll play at 1:50. And then on into the afternoon and night, you got McNeese State and Clemson. That's that McNeese State led by Will Wade, who's pretty much come to an agreement with NC State as their next basketball coach. So NC State or Will Wade back into the big boy world after getting axed at LSU a few years ago over all kinds of different stuff. And then later on, you got Wofford, Tennessee, Georgia, Gonzaga, Yale, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Kansas, all the way on into to the night. So you're going to have games. I won't name all of them, but, man, you're going to have a full day. That's why everybody loves it. One SEC team down already, Faith. Texas bit the dust last night against Xavier.
I know Texas was having a good game last night, too.
Shot the eyeballs out in the first half and then just could not do anything in the second half.
No.
So Xavier comes back and defeats them. So the SEC down to 13 teams that quickly. One game, one SEC team out. So there's your schedule today. Hope everybody kicks back. All you at work acting like you're looking at a spreadsheet on your computer. You ain't fooling anybody. We know you're watching the tournament. So just might as well have it up playing when everybody walks through because they're probably doing the same thing you are. All right, so let's shift over and talk some football, Faith. And I know we won't dive into it 100%, but I want to look at this roster, and I want to look at the potential starters going into spring and what this looks like. And, we'll start with offense. We'll start with the quarterback position. This is going to be a room full of newbies, and it's going to be 2 transfer portal guys and Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels from Stanford. And then you got the freshman Deuce Knight coming in as well. And then if you want to add Tanner Bailey in who will be, a junior transfer, was at South Carolina, but has been a student at Auburn. And that's your new quarterback room. That's the guys that you're going to be looking at. And most eyes are going to be on Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight. So I think everybody's excited to see those two guys get out there and battle this thing out. I'm not writing Ashton Daniels off, but let's just be honest. The two highly touted guys coming in are Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight. So that's going to be a fun competition to watch. We'll be covering that next week.
Yeah, I talked to Malcolm about it a little bit too. And he said both of those boys are hard workers and that he's created a great relationship with the both of them. And they're both just dogs out there on the field so far, or during workouts when we met up with him. But yeah, I'm excited. And a lot of other people are saying that Deuce just doesn't look like a freshman coming in.
He does not.
And that's also, I mean, he's never played on a college field in this kind of setting, but just already, putting on that weight and getting adapted to the environment and the new guys is it's got to be really hard coming in as a freshman. But hearing how well he's kind of adapted so far is, I think, a very we're on an uphill.
Oh, no doubt.
Right now.
Well,
So,
it's again, we all want to look into the future and worry about roster management. You got to live in the moment now. Okay.
Yeah.
You got to live in the moment. You got to let the best players play, and you worry about all the other stuff. Is this quarterback room? What's this quarterback room going to look like in 10 months? I don't care right now. It doesn't matter to me, what it's going to look like. What I care about is right now and who's going to be the guy. And you can't worry about, well, if you don't play this guy, he's probably going to transfer. You don't know anyway what a guy's going to do now.
right now, you have to trust your coaches. And I know that's hard from the season that we've had last year and the season before, but that's the only thing I can really say when we don't know too much what's going on because it's so early into spring practice, like literally so early. The only thing you can do right now is just trust Coach
Right.
Freeze and his staff and what they can do to keep them there during this spring practice time and going into summer and everything,
And
because
holding on
who
to
knows,
it.
we could lose people. But yeah, that's the only thing we can do at this given time.
Yep. I think you just said it. I think you got to trust your coaches and you got to build relationships and you got to have kids that go, okay, no matter what happens in spring, get into fall. Let's see how this thing plays out. All right. So quarterback, obviously going to be the hot topic. Let's look at this offensive line. Auburn's going to be blessed to have a bunch of guys back. Now I know some of you out there going, well, what, you want a bunch of guys back on the team that had a losing record? I mean, look, here's the deal. I mean, anytime you can get veterans back on the offensive line and you have that cohesiveness and you want them back. And so Dylan Wade, Connor Liu, obviously at center, Jeremiah Wright, big Xavier Miller. Those guys are going to be stalwarts there. Those are 4 lockdown guys that return. And then you got at left tackle, what is that going to look like? Is it going to be Xavier Chaplin? Would it be, somebody like DeAndre Carter, who's going to probably play more of a guard position, but, will it be Tyler Johnson? Who is it going to be at tackle? Auburn went out and got, some guys in the transfer portal, Xavier Chaplin being one of them to possibly fill in right there in that spot. So, but the offensive line should be pretty much intact from last year. And again, the problem for Auburn on the offensive line over the last several years is you've been having to move guys all over the place. You've had to move them from tackle to guard to, and then back out to tackle. They've had to learn multiple positions. Well, the reason you build depth on the offensive line, Faith, is that you got a guy that locks into one true position. And if your left guard goes out, you got a true left guard guy to come in and you don't have to move a tackle into guard and then shift another guy around, that makes it really difficult on a team to have to do that. So building that depth like Auburn's built with Braden Joyner and Dylan Cinda and DeAndre Carter, Tyler Johnson, having some guys, and then bringing in, a guy like Mason Murphy. Those are guys you're building true depth on the offensive front, which you got to have in this league.
Yeah. Last year, my first interview was with Jeremiah Wright, and he was coming back from an injury his previous year. And so he was kind of getting thrown into the right guard position, coming back in because he was gone. And that's the other thing too, is so many people, we saw Too Tall last year, he got hurt. And so more people had to go and kind of shift around. And I'm not saying the injuries aren't going to happen this year, but with how they kind of were in that position last year, going into this year, not having to rotate as much and trying to move people around, I feel like they're practicing in this position, and it's not, if nobody, hopefully knock on wood, nobody gets hurt, that's what it's going to be in the fall. And that'll really give everybody a sense of clarity, kind of where they're going to be on the offensive line.
And you want guys that are number twos that you feel really good. If somebody does go down, they slide right in and you don't lose anything. You don't take a step back. If Dylan Wade were to go down, you feel great that Braden Joyner comes in and fits right in that hole.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I want to also talk about Jeremiah Wright. You brought him up because you interviewed him last year. That kid's been on both sides of the football. He's had to play defensive line. He's been on the offensive line. He's back to the defensive line. His whole career has been a hop around. So again, I saw him in high school. I knew he was a really good player and called a few of his games. This guy right here, I mean, if you give him an opportunity to just actually lock into one position, there's no telling how good he can be. And
he's a freaking stud.
He is. I mean, so Auburn's got the size and the athleticism on the front line. And again, Connor Lew's one of the best centers in the country. I wouldn't trade him for pretty much anybody. He's going into his junior year now. He's played since he was a freshman. A very solid player up front that should be up for an all SEC honor if we have a good season. So there's the offensive line. Let's look at this running back room. I know I'm saving the wide receiver room for last, because if you want to talk about a room, I'll save it here. But you'll talk about a room that changed. That one changed. But let's look at this running back room. I mean, you got two guys coming back in Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. And you add Darrell Robinson to the mix. You add, a freshman in Alvin Henderson. No Jarquez Hunter, for the first time, and a guy that we've leaned on back there in the backfield for a lot of production that's not going to be at Auburn this year. So it's time for Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb to step up. And one of the things that you look at when these two guys are probably going to have to platoon. They're not built the way Jarquez Hunter was built. This is going to be a platoon effort that where you got you're going to have to split time. And, I don't think it's going to really matter who starts. I think how quickly can Alvin Henderson come in, who was, Mr. Football here in the state of Alabama, how can he get in the mix? What will Darrell Robinson add in on the mix? So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to, is how this, I think it could be a good thing, Faith. I really do. I think you could have situational things that kind of go back to the 2010 season where you had, Ontario McCaleb and come in and do certain things. And I mean, you can make this work to your advantage.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And we've seen Damari a little bit last year and the year before. And that kid is like a unit. When you go up and talk to him, he's on the smaller side, but I mean, he is just a piece of muscle. And
Right.
I think once he's able to just stay low and keep moving his feet, he's going to be like Jarquez, like Tank Bigsby, being able to just, I think from what I remember is he wasn't staying low and moving his feet the entire time. It was more of a kind of left to right, staying
Right.
on the line of scrimmage for him. But once he just keeps moving his feet into the hole like that, I think he's going to really blow everybody away.
So, looking at that running back room is going to be fun. Seeing how, I think Damari Alston will get the nod as the starter, but Jeremiah Cobb, man, I covered him in high school at Catholic. I know Georgia wanted him extremely bad, and Auburn was able to land him. And, he heads into his junior year. Want to see that guy get on the field and contribute, have quality touches. Catches the ball really well out of the backfield. I think both of these guys catch the ball really well out of the backfield. And I think you've got a couple quarterbacks now that are going to be able to deliver the ball, get them out on the edge, and let them get into one-on-one situations where they can make some plays. So, all right, so let's go up to the wide receiver room. And again, about 3 years ago, it was like, who are we going to throw the ball to? We ain't got anybody. And now you look at it and you go, who's going to get on the field? And that's that's great. I mean, it's a great, I don't want to call it a problem because it's not a problem, but I guess it's trying to manage playing time for all these guys. Obviously, Cam Coleman is poised for a phenomenal season following up a great freshman season. And so is Malcolm Simmons. Those two guys, I think, are locks in the starting lineup. And then you bring in a guy like Eric Singleton, who was the number one guy in the transfer portal by a lot of recruiting services, and definitely the number one wide receiver in the transfer portal. I think he's going to work his way into the starting lineup. And then it's going to be a combination of Horatio Fields, who just transferred from Wake Forest, and Perry Thompson, who we're still waiting to see what he's going to be able to do, and Bryce Kane. And then you bring guys in like Sam Turner and Eric Smith, which we know have a high ceiling. And I think kind of people have, really aren't talking a lot about them because look what I just talked about to get to them. But those guys can play too, but they come in as freshmen, which we all know it's going to be hard as a freshman to break through when you got, I mean, let's just be honest. Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, and Malcolm Simmons on the field at the same time. Who's got a better wide receiver room than that? There's a better starting three. I ain't even gotten to Fields and Thompson and Kane. I mean, who's got a better starting three combined than those three guys?
Nobody.
Let me look at my list. Nobody. Okay.
Exactly.
Didn't take very long. So that's a quick snapshot of what this is looking like going into next week and what Auburn would run out there if they had to run out ones right now. And we'll save defense for tomorrow, Faith. We'll talk about what the defense, because defense is going to look, it's going to look, you're going to see a lot of guys returning.
Yeah, a lot of the same guys. Right.
And so you're going to have a lot of newbies, though, that I think are going to work their way in pretty fast. And so we'll talk about the defense tomorrow. But there's a snapshot there of, I know we didn't go into depth all the way down. We talked about some of the guys that are 2 and 3 deep, but we wanted to just kind of see if Auburn had to run a one out there, who would that be in those positions? And again, didn't really even say anything about tight end. I mean, it seems like Brandon Frazier will get the nod there, but then you bring in a guy like Preston Howard out of the transfer portal. You got Rico Walker still sitting there. We can go all the way down the line on that. But, Brandon Frazier going to get the nod. Man, he seems like he's been there for 18 years. But,
with that injury last year, though.
Right.
But
again, a very solid piece there at tight end. And so yeah, it looks good. But you know, when you run down everybody's starting lineup in this league, they got pieces and they got, you know, they got good players. So I love the fact that you look at that offensive line and you got 4 returning starters really that you're going to run out there more than likely. And then you've built that depth over the last couple of years with these recruiting classes, which Auburn really for 15 years, we talked about it, Faith, that Auburn just could not get offensive line recruiting right.
No.
You know, all the way back through the majority of Gus Malzahn's tenure. And then since then, and then, you know, Coach Freeze and this staff have done a great job of building offensive line depth, and we needed it. And I think that's where we've been the most efficient probably on offense than any other position over the last 15 years. So good to see that depth being built back up, and excited to get football started, but we're excited that March Madness is here today. We got a lot of basketball to watch. You know, it's just go ahead and get an early start to the weekend. I'm giving you permission. Faith's giving you permission. Just go ahead and just kick on back. This is the first weekend of the tournament. It's always the most fun. It's a holiday. They need to just go ahead and make it and declare it a holiday and be done with it. So, so looking forward to a full day of basketball, and looking forward to the Auburn Tigers taking on the dreaded Stinger from Alabama State. We hope that Stinger doesn't have any oomph left in it after the other night. We hope that thing's dead. So.
Okay, Brett.
Hope that Stinger's dead, man. We hope they're done. So they're out. But Auburn hopefully will come out and take care of business. And, you know, again, want to see a historical run. Want to see Auburn make a run to the Final Four and get over the hump and finally hang a banner in Neville Arena. But it starts today against Alabama State. So, Faith, as always, it's a lot of fun. We'll have the Auburn Blitz show at noon today. It'll be Andy and Jim, so make sure you tune in to that. You and I will be back bright and early in the morning to get everybody kicked off. We'll break down, hopefully, a convincing win for Auburn, and then we will talk about the defensive side of the football. As we just talked about the offensive side just a few minutes ago, we'll talk about defense in depth tomorrow, what that looks like for the Auburn Tigers. But, again, thanks to all our sponsors, Sensa Green, for air that's cool and clean, not cream, clean. Call on Sensa Green, Scout Program Management, full-service construction management firm. Bunkers, make Bunkers your official home for March Madness. Go check them out. Go over there today. Hang out all day. They're there. They're waiting on you to get there. Also want to thank Sure Shot. Turkey season starts next week for everybody. So go get your gear, get your ammo. If you're looking for a new shotgun, go get that. They got 10% off on Browning firearms, so go do that. And then Oliver Ross, if you got a party, you got a March Madness party coming up over the next few weeks, you got any kind of party, call on them. They have full-service, licensed, trained bartenders to handle your party. So go check them out. Thanks to all of them for being partners on our program. That's going to wrap us up here on the Auburn Blitz. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. Watch a lot of basketball, and Auburn will be on the court at 150 and a big O.
War Eagle.